The scent of my cheap coffee was a familiar comfort, a stark contrast to the dread coiling in my stomach. In 2 hours, I would be walking into the lion's den, my daughter Hannah's in-laws, the Kavanaughs. The invitation to a leaner Kavanaugh's birthday dinner at the Westmore Country Club had been delivered not with warmth, but with the clinical precision of a subpoena from my son-in-law, Mark. His voice on the phone had been a study in condescension. "Hannah insists you come, David. Try to be presentable. The Westmore has standards." The words were a silken glove over an iron fist. Standards, a word they used as a weapon. I looked at my reflection in the toaster. A 68-year-old man with mechanic's hands and a wardrobe from a discount store. I was a smudge of grease on their pristine, monogrammed world. The drive to the department store was a funeral march. I bought a bland, safe tie and a new shirt, the price tag a small heart attack. The gift, a crystal vase, felt flimsy and inadequate in my calloused hands, a pathetic peace offering for a queen who demanded gold. As I merged onto the interstate, the plan was simple. Arrive early, keep my head down, survive the evening for Hannah's sake. That's when I saw it. A sleek, silver Jaguar was stranded of me was one I hadn't received in years, one of unadulterated respect. That's a rare philosophy these days. She insisted on taking my number. "I'd like to stay in touch, David, truly." As her Jaguar merged back into traffic, I looked at my own watch. My heart sank. I was catastrophically, unforgivably late. The Kavanaughs would feast on this. I arrived at the Westmore Country Club looking like what I was, a man who just lost a fight with a machine. My dress shoes were scuffed from kneeling on asphalt. My presentable shirt was a lost cause. The vase in my hand felt like a cruel joke. Eleanor Kavanaugh opened the massive oak door herself. Her face, a mask of carefully maintained youth, cycled through shock, disgust, and finally icy contempt. "David," my name was a verdict. "You're here." "Eleanor, happy birthday, car trouble." I offered the gift. She took the bag with 2 fingers as if it were contaminated. "Mark," she called over her shoulder, her voice dripping with frost. "Your guest is here." The scene in the foyer was a masterclass in silent humiliation. Mark's jaw tightened. His father, Charles, sipped his scotch and looked through me. My Hannah's face was a heartbreaking canvas of love and mortification. Solidarity that felt like a shield. "I see you didn't have time to change either," she said, her eyes twinkling as she took in my stained shirt. "Still wearing the badges of honor from your good deed, I see. This man," she announced to the room, "is the reason I'm not still stranded on I-70. He spent his afternoon getting his hands dirty to help a perfect stranger, refused a single penny." The silence was now of a different quality, shocked, reverent. Charles looked like he'd been shot. You know David." "Know him?" Clarissa laughed, a rich, authentic sound. "David is the most decent man I've met in a decade. I've been trying to recruit people with half his integrity for my board for years." She turned to me, ignoring everyone else. "That offer for a consulting position stands, David. I need that kind of character in my company." The Kavanaughs were statues. Their entire world, a world built on connections, on impressing the right people, was imploding. The woman whose approval they desperately sought for a multi-million-dollar investment in Charles' development firm was not just praising the man they just eviscerated. She was offering him a job. Clarissa finally turned her gaze to Alina. "Now, about this birthday dinner. I hope you've saved a seat for David next to me. I'd hate for my key strategic advisor to be relegated to the patio." The collapse was total. It was not a loud, dramatic fall. It was the silent, brutal sound of a family's social standing shattering into a million pieces. They had tried to bury me in shame, but they hadn't realized I was a seed. And Clarissa Vance had just provided the sun. The tables have turned with devastating, silent precision. The Kavanaugh's world is crumbling, but the final blow has yet to fall. Subscribe now, because what happens at that dinner table will redefine poetic justice. You will not believe the power of a single, well-placed sentence. The air in the Kavanaugh's dining room was so thick with shattered pretension you could taste it, a bitter cocktail of envy and panic. Clarissa Vance had not just entered the room. She had taken command of it, her arm linked casually through mine, a general claiming her most valuable asset. She guided me to the head of the table, to the chair Charles Kavanaugh had just vacated in his fawning rush to greet her. "Charles, you don't mind, do you?" she asked, her tone leaving no room for disagreement. "David and I have so much to discuss. Business, you understand." Charles, his face a pale mask of forced geniality, could only manage a strangled, "Of course, of course. Whatever makes you comfortable, Mrs. Vance." He scurried to a lesser seat, a deposed king. Eleanor looked as if she'd swallowed a shard of her own crystal vase. Her perfectly planned seating chart, a meticulous map of social hierarchy, was now a worthless document. Mark stared at his plate, his jaw clenched so tight I feared for his teeth. Only my Hannah dared to meet my eyes, and in them I saw a dawning, fierce pride. The first course was served, some delicate, unidentifiable thing on a bed of microgreens. Clarissa ignored it, turning to me as if we were the only two people in busy admiring the paint job. They don't notice the rust eating away at the frame until the whole thing collapses under stress. The table was utterly silent. Every guest was starring, their expensive food forgotten. Clarissa nodded slowly, a masterful conductor. "And how do you prevent such a catastrophic failure?" "You have to get your hands dirty," I replied, holding up my own, still stained with the evidence of my labor. "You have to be willing to look foolish, to get grease under your nails. You have to prioritize the integrity of the machine over the opinion of the people who are just along for the ride." The metaphor was a bomb, and it had detonated right in the center of their world. Mark looked physically ill. Charles was sweating. Eleanor's smile was a rictus of terror. The main course came and went, a blur of uneaten, artfully arranged food. The conversation never strayed far from Clarissa's interest in my unique perspective. She was building me up, brick by solid brick, on the foundation of their ruined vanity. With every word, she was not just defending me, she was anointing me. She was showing them that in the real world, the world of power and consequence, my flaws were my greatest strengths, and their standards were their fatal weakness. When the decadent birthday cake was wheeled out, it felt like a funeral procession. Alina made a weak attempt to blow out the candles, her breath shaky. No one sang. As dessert plates were cleared, Clarissa dabbed her mouth with a linen napkin and rose. The room stood with her, a conditioned reflex. "Alina, thank you for a memorable evening," she said, her tone impeccably polite yet utterly final. "Charles, I'll have my office be in touch regarding our pending discussions." She then turned to me. "David, walk me to my car." It wasn't a request. We left the dining room, the weight of the Kavanaugh's stunned silence pressing behind us. In the grand foyer, under the cold light of the chandelier, for me. "Dad, David," he corrected himself, the word tasting foreign in his mouth.